Kwame Nkrumah was the first-time Prime Minister and President of Ghana. He was a Marxist politician, political theorist, and a revolutionary. He played a key role in the country's fight for independence from British colonial rule. Nkrumah was a Pan-Africanist and a leading advocate for the decolonization of Africa. Kwame Nkrumah was born on September 1909 in Nkroful, Goalcoast, to a goldsmith father and a retail trader mother. 8 days after his birth, his father named him as Francis Nwia-Kofi after a relative, but later his parents named him as Francis Kwame Ngolomah. Nkrumah got baptized as a Roman Catholic. He spent 9 years in the Roman Catholic elementary school in nearby Half Assini. He attended Achimota College, and after graduating in 1930, he started his career as a teacher at Roman Catholic Junior in Elmina and at a seminary. Due to his interest in politics, Nkrumah decided to pursue further studies in the United States. He entered Lincoln University in Pennsylvania in 1935, and after graduating in 1939, he obtained a master's degree from Lincoln University and University of Pennsylvania. He studied literature of socialism and of nationalism. He left the United States in May 1947 and went to England, where he organized the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester. Invited to serve as General Secretary of the United Goalcoast Convention, Nkrumah returned home in late 1947. As a General Secretary, Nkrumah addressed meetings throughout the Gold Coast and began to create a mass base for the new movement. When extensive riots occurred in February 1948, the British briefly arrested Nkrumah and other leaders of the United Gold Coast Convention. When a split developed between the middle-class leaders of the United Gold Coast Convention and the more radical supporters of Nkrumah, he formed the new convention, People's Party, in 1949, which is a mass-based party that was committed to a program of immediate self-government. In January 1950, Nkrumah initiated a campaign of positive actions involving non-violent protests, strikes, and non-cooperation with the British colonial authorities. In ensuing crisis service throughout the country were distrusted, and Nkrumah was again arrested and sentenced to 1 year imprisonment. But the Gold Coast first general election demonstrated the support of CPP had already won. Elected to parliament, Nkrumah was released from prison to become leader of government business, and in 1952, Prime Minister of Gold Coast. When the Gold Coast and the British Togoland Trust Territory became an independent state within the British Commonwealth. As Ghana in March 1957, Nkrumah became the new nation Prime Minister. In 1958, Nkrumah's government legalized the imprisonment without trial of those it regarded as security risk. It soon became apparent the Nkrumah style of government was to be authoritarian. Nkrumah's popularity in the country rose, however, as new roads, schools, and health facilities were built, and as the policies of Africanization created a better career opportunities for Ghanaians. By a plebiscite of 1960, Ghana became a republic and Nkrumah became its president, with wide legislative and executive powers under a new constitution. Nkrumah then concentrated his attention on campaigning for the political unity of Black Africa, and he began to lose touch with realities in Ghana. His administration became involved in magnificent but often ruinous development projects, so that a once prosperous country became crippled with foreign debt. His government's second development plan, announced in 1959, had to be abandoned in 1961 when the deficit in balance of payment rose to more than $125 million. Contraction of the economy led to a widespread labor unrest and to a general strike in September 1961. From that time, Nkrumah began to evolve as much rigorous apparatus of political control and to turn increasingly to the communist countries for support. On March 6th, Ghana finally secured its independence from Great Britain after a decade-long nationalist struggle. At the independence celebration, Nkrumah, the leader of the Convention People's Party and new Prime Minister, declared that Ghanaian independence marked the birth of a new Africa, ready to fight its own battles and show that, after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. Less than 3 weeks later, on March 25th, Belgium, France, the Federal Republic of Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands signed the Treaty of Rome, creating the European Economic Community. While Ghanaian independence marked the emergence of a world of non-state from the ashes of European imperialism. The birth of the EEC empires, metropoles looked forward to the transcendence of the nation-state itself. In Ghana, Nkrumah's vision of decolonization can be traced to a view of national independence that can only be realized through internationalism. Nkrumah's bold step in preparing Ghana for industrial takeoff was his concentration on education. The accelerated education program and the setting up of the Ghana Education Trust, which enabled the building of secondary schools all over Ghana, were the first steps in training the skilled manpower required for Ghana's industrialization. The Goalcoast has been among the wealthiest and most socialized advanced areas in Africa, with schools, railways, hospitals, social securities, and advance for economy. After the 10-year development plan, Nkrumah brought forth the second development plan in 1959. His plan called for the development of manufacturing 600 factories producing 100 varieties of product. The Statutory Cooperation Act, passed in November 1959 and revised in 1961, and 1964 created the legal framework for public operations, which include state enterprises. This law was placed in the country's major corporation under the direction of government ministers. Nkrumah's time in office began successfully. Forestry, fishing, and cattle breeding expanded production of cocoa, Ghana's main export. Double and modest deposits of bauxite and gold were exploited more effectively. The construct dam on the River Volta provided water for irrigation and hydroelectric power, which produced enough electricity for the towns and for a new aluminium plant. Government funds were also provided for all village projects in which local people built schools and roads, while free healthcare and education were introduced. One of the first steps taken by the NLC and their political economy advisors, who always opposed Nkrumah's, was to halt Nkrumah's progressive education program. Several teacher training colleges were closed down. Scholarship of Ghanaians studying abroad withdrawn and the free textbooks which enabled thousands of children from poor families stopped. Not only did NLC halt the expansion of primary and secondary education, but the reconstruction of Faculty of Science at KUST into the Faculty of Applied Science and the Faculty of Technology was halted. Further damage to Ghana's prospect for successful industrialization occurred when the NLC sabotaged Nkrumah's program for research and development. Nkrumah never returned to Ghana, but he continued to push for his vision of African unity. He lived in exile in Conakry, Vines, as the guest of the President Ahmed Sékou Touré, who made him honorary co-president of the country. Despite retirement from the public office, he felt that he was still threatened by the Western intelligence agencies. When his cook died mysteriously, he feared that someone would poison him and began hoarding food in his room. He suspected that foreign agents were going through his mail and lived in constant fear of abduction and assassination. In failing health, he flew to Bucharest, Romania for medical treatment in August 1971. He died of prostate cancer in April 1972 at the age of 62 while in Romania. Nkrumah was buried in a tomb in the village of his birth, Nkroful, Ghana, while the tomb remains in Nkroful. His remains were transferred to a large nation memorial tomb and parked in Accra, Ghana. Over his lifetime, Nkrumah was awarded honorary doctorates by many universities, including Lincoln University, Pennsylvania, Moscow State University, Cairo University of Egypt, Jagiellonian University, Poland, and Humboldt University, East Germany. In 2000, he was voted African Man of the Millennium by listeners to the BBC World Service, being described by the BBC as a hero of independence, an international symbol of freedom, as the leader of the first Black African country to shake off the chains of colonial rule. According to the intelligence documents released by the U.S. Department of State Office of the Historian, Nkrumah was doing more to undermine U.S. government interests than any other Black African. Nkrumah was also best known politically for his strong commitment and promotion of Pan-Africanism. He was inspired by the writings of Black intellectuals such as Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, and George Padmore, and his relationships with them. Much of his understanding and relationship to those men was created during his years in America as a student. Motivated by advice from Du Bois, Nkrumah decided to create peace in Africa. He became a passionate advocate of the African personality, embodied in the slogan Africa for Africans, earlier popularized by Edward Wilmot Bladen, and he viewed political independence as a prerequisite for economic independence. His press officer for 6 years was the Grenadian anti-colonialist Sam Morris. Nkrumah's biggest success in this area was his significant influence in the founding of the Organization of African Unity. Nkrumah also became a symbol for Black liberation in the United States. In Nkrumah's honor, an annual event called Journey to Nkroful was set up to celebrate his birthday.